Buenos días, seguimos aquí en el plató de e-commerce en la Barcelona New Economy Week, que como saben organiza el consorcio de la zona franca. Nos encontramos en un lugar emblemático de Barcelona, en la estación de Francia, y queremos darle las gracias también a las personas que han hecho posible que este lugar sea aún más bonito. Son el Barcelona Centre de Design y Cape Home, que nos han ayudado un poco a diseñar los espacios del plató y también otros espacios de este congreso. Hay mucha gente involucrada en todo esto porque durante estos 4 días van a pasar por aquí 800 speakers, 12.000 asistentes de más de 145 países del mundo, y se pueden conectar desde cualquier lugar porque, como decimos, este es un evento híbrido, físico y digital, con lo cual quien no pueda acercarse hasta aquí pues puede conectarse por internet, registrarse y rápidamente estar con nosotros. Nosotros vamos a meternos rápidamente en materia. Arrancamos BCHANGER, donde vamos a hablar de cómo están cambiando un poco pues las compras, el comercio electrónico, el retail, con el paso de las generaciones, de generación en generación, cómo va cambiando todo esto. ¿Cuántos de ustedes han comprado, por ejemplo, con las redes sociales, a través de Instagram? A muchos les parecerá muy extraño, pero hay estudios que hablan, por ejemplo, que los jóvenes, el 77% de los jóvenes lo han hecho por lo menos alguna vez. Y hoy hemos querido estar aquí en este plató con algunos jóvenes que cuando tenían 30 años ya habían creado alguna empresa. Ellos nos van a hablar un poco de cómo están cambiando los hábitos, cómo se adaptaron ellos y también de cuáles son los retos del futuro. El encargado de charlar con ellos va a ser Hernán Camps. Hernán, encantado, muchas gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Hernán es, para que lo sepan, CEO de la startup Robin Brick, que trata de conectar de alguna manera a los consumidores online con el personal de las tiendas físicas. Hernán pasó 20 años en el extranjero en varios países. Fue consultor de IT en los años 90, asesor a la junta directiva de KPMG en todo el mundo y dirigió su propia cadena de retail en Alemania. Os dejo con él, os doy la bienvenida y también doy la bienvenida a los ponentes online, que son Verónica, Joyce y Raisa. Welcome, thank you for being here with us. So go ahead and I see you in a bit.
Hello. Well, first of all, welcome everyone to the Barcelona BNew. And I want to introduce you to our guests today. First of all, we have the twin sisters, Joyce and Raisa, from the Netherlands, based in London. They are the co-founders of Double Dutch. It's a multi-million-dollar tonic and mixer company. And then I would also like to introduce you to Veronica from Argentina, first based in Barcelona and now based in Portugal. She's the big boss of DDMO. They are creating 3D digital humans to better communicate, learn, play, and shop. So, hello, and
hello.
Can you see me?
Hey. Yes, hello. Absolutely.
How are you today?
Nice to see you, and nice to meet you, girls. Nice to meet you as well.
Very nice to see you again. Well, I have tons of questions for you. First of all, I was very impressed. You were Forbes 30 under 30. Veronica, the Forbes has also been writing about her in The Wire as well. And lately, like every time I plug into social media, I get all these ads about like what are the habits for being a successful person, a successful entrepreneur, a millionaire. And I guess many people would wonder, what are your habits? What do you think you do on a regular basis that has helped you to become so successful at such a young age? So if you want, we could start with Joyce and Raisa.
I think habits. I think it's just hard work, and I think you need to be super passionate about what you do, because I think starting your own company, there's probably lots of sacrifices in your social life that you need to give up. So I think if you're super passionate about it and it doesn't feel like work, that definitely helps. But I think it's perseverance and believing in your own company and just working long hours and keep going through. There's lots of no's, especially in the beginning, and it is difficult. And I think having a co-founder definitely helps, because it's easier to get through the kind of harder days, to kind of lift each other up, for sure. And I think in terms of hobbies, we don't have that many hobbies. We love drinking gin and tonics, which is basically work. And I don't know, I think it is difficult, or for us it's quite difficult, I think, to find like a really there's not something like a work-life balance. I think it's all interconnected with each other, and I actually really like it. I think it's a nice thing that I wouldn't really wanna split my work life and my social life, and I never go on holidays and then think I'll leave my computer home. I think it's nice that you don't see work as work, and if it's your passion, then it makes life much more fun. And I think it's really nice to be working hard, and I think these are the years that you should be doing it. So I really love it, and I think it has its disadvantages, but all in all, I think also having like a co-founder makes it much more fun, probably.
Okay, I guess in your case, and tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it especially fits because you're making mixers for drinks. And I read somewhere that you started doing that at parties with your friends. They kind of like it, and then you started your company from there. So kind of that mixes the social life and the working life, right? You validated your product while partying. Is that true?
Exactly. So if we're going for a drink on a Saturday evening, it's basically market research.
That's great. And what about you, Veronica?
Okay, so I have it completely different because I have 2 kids. So there's habits before kids and there are habits after kids. But there's one thing that really never gets lost, which is like your essence, right? And I feel very representative with what you were saying about what keeps you going. And in my case, if I look back, is always having that grit, that positive, willing to continue because you can really feel it in your whole body that you have a mission in your life that you got to accomplish, right? So and with time, it's kind of nice to see that in my case, it was always about taking the path that people don't usually walk. I've always been a little bit awkward in that sense. And I guess the best analogy that I have to say, it's kind of like I used to be a good skier. Now I'm just a skier, right? And I love skiing, and I think that represents me really well because it's like when you're at the top of that big mountain, you have to have no fear and a ton of courage. So it's like courage and fear, hand by hand, to be able to make that leap and go down. But before you go down, you gotta have on your mind the design of the path of where you're gonna go down, and then anything can really happen. So the only thing that really keeps you going is your own skills, your own willing to go down and arrive to a certain destination, facing whatever, in this case, nature brings you in the middle. So I think that's kind of like how I see my life, really. It's just always taking the path that people least walk and always having that grit to continue and having a purpose that fulfills you. And then you try to put the kids and the family in the middle every time you can. So, yeah.
So you all talk about a balanced life. And I find it interesting because very often when I hear about the startups or I see pitches, I always see about the problem, the solution, and I see very seldom people really talking about the mission. And that's what you point out as your main thing. And I guess that's what keeps you the drive. But I also like to, there is something I know about you that I would like you to share because I think it's a fantastic story that I totally admire, and at the same time I laugh so much when I think about it. And it's, you were a consultant before you were 17 by IBM, is that right?
Yeah, I got my first job at IBM. It wasn't a consultant, it was how you want me to share how I got my first job, right?
Yeah, it has something to do with a pizza story.
Yeah, absolutely.
Some of you were doing drinks, then tell us about the pizza, please.
Yeah, absolutely. So I finished high school when I was almost 17, so in the US. And then I came back to Argentina and was pretty much, they didn't want me back at school because I was making a lot of trouble. I was just too young to go to university. So I needed to find a job. I did try the McDonald's, the Dunkin' Donuts, all that, didn't like it. I did try to go to the UN, that didn't work as well either, but I knew I wanted to be an engineer. So I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go find a job at IBM. So I did walk to the IBM building. It's a 21 floor, a building, huge in Buenos Aires. Walked in and I said, I want to go to human resources. And at the age of 17, you have no fear really. And they like, sorry, you just can't go up. And I'm like, okay. And I didn't have anything better to do. My parents really want me to get a job or do something, worthwhile. So I just sit in the IBM stairs for like a few days, and I figure out that you could actually get into the building if you were a delivery person. So I did bought a pizza, and I walked in and I said, I'm just taking this pizza to human resources. And this was before internet, Wikipedia, email, everything, okay? So I walked in, go up, and I said, just bring in this pizza for the manager of human resources. And they're like, not here. And then lucky star I have, that my mom always said, he walks in and he's like, I didn't order a pizza. And I was like, I know, I just want to work here. Please, I just want an interview. So long story short, he just wanted to dismiss me, and he made a big mistake. He gave me his business card with a phone number, no email, okay? So I start calling, and I'm like, sounds bad, but I was like stalking the manager of human resources. And he says, okay, come in. And he started sending me, to one interview after the other. And at every interview, they would say, sorry, you just don't have any curriculum. And I'm like, I speak English. That's all I know. Kids at 17 today, they do have a big curriculum. I didn't, okay, back then. So as you can imagine, the story ends well. After 8 interviews going one after the other, always getting no, you have no curriculum. I walk into the last interview, and they were opening a new department in Argentina, which was the services department. The concept of services wasn't well known. And Fernando, who ended up being my manager, he asked for my curriculum, and I gave an envelope, and he says, oh, God, you forgot your printed page in it. And I was like, no curriculum. I have nothing. It's now your responsibility to actually fill it in with knowledge. And he said, you can start Monday. And for 5 years, I worked at IBM. It was an incredible experience. And a lot of who I am professionally is because someone gave me an opportunity. And I will always be forever grateful for that. So
okay,
that's my story.
Thank you very much, Veronica. We're here also to talk about your companies, but I found it extremely important to know a little bit about the people sitting behind, and I'm pretty sure whatever you would have done would have been successful beyond the business idea that you are running now. So that's a little bit what I'm so curious about who you actually are. But could you tell us a little bit about your company and your role there, so that everybody can know a little bit more what you are actually doing right now? So Raisa, Joyce, whoever likes to explain a little bit about your company. And
so we started Double Dutch 6 years ago, and we offer a range of 12 all-natural premium tonic waters with a focus on flavor. So we do, for example, cucumber watermelon, pomegranate and basil. We have a super delicious margarita soda. So we're all about versatility and never drinking Del again. So you can use Double Dutch as a healthy adult soft drink, or to make cocktails really easy. So our main customers are bars, restaurants, hotels, who want to offer quality and consistency at the same time without complicating their cocktail menu, but still want to offer something different and innovative. And for consumers at home, we really try to bring that restaurant experience in people's home, again, without complicating it. So for us, we used to be very much focused on the hospitality industry, originally as kind of our main market, but now obviously COVID and kind of how the world is changing, and that's why it's very interesting that we are speaking here today. Our whole focus is so much change towards retail and e-commerce, and COVID kind of accelerated that progress for us. And I think for us, we probably came out of COVID probably as a slightly healthier company, not just focused on hospitality, with a small revenue stream and small channel focus on retail. Now we have a lot more listings in Europe and in our home country, in the UK, in grocery, but also the importance of e-commerce has massively grown for us. And it was a real lifesaver whilst the whole world kind of closed down last year. So I think retail and e-commerce is the future, but brands are still being built. I think especially drinks brands in hospitality and being in premium hotels, bars, restaurants. So definitely it's kind of a mixture for both. And between us, I do everything with sales and marketing, and Joyce looks after our export and finance and ops business. Exactly. So we are based in London, and then we export to about 42 other countries. And the UK is our home market, together with another 5 key markets. We're just launching in the US next month, so that's very exciting export sites. And then, but very much focused on hospitality and retail now.
So if I understand it correctly, before COVID, you were more of a B2B business, going for hospitality. And now you are also going into B2C, directly to the consumer through your e-commerce?
Yes. So we used to do a bit of B2C and retail before COVID. But because of COVID, it's just become a lot more of an importance for our business. Or we recruited a new team to look after grocery and retail and e-commerce, whilst before COVID, we had a little bit of retail and grocery listings in the UK and Europe, but it was definitely only a small part of our total revenues.
All right. How are you selling? I'm curious about that. I hear more often about subscription models. Are you more like selling like directly? I just go and buy a couple of bottles, and then hopefully at some point I will remember again, or do you send me like a couple of bottles? I know I'm throwing to Paris a month, so pretty much like you fill up my fridge.
The majority of our business is definitely B2B. So whether that is to retail chains and grocery stores, or online platforms like Amazon, or for example, Ocado, or that's definitely the majority of our business. We do have a direct-to-consumer channel where we offer subscription on our website, but the majority is definitely B2B. I think with us, because we are a product that volumes is so important with a product like Double Dutch, and we are quite heavy versus the unit cost of buying Double Dutch.
You mean in terms of weight?
Yeah, in terms of weight. So unit cost is quite low and the weight is quite heavy. It's definitely a product and a business where you want to sell in pallets, if not containers, and full truckloads. You don't want to be involved with sending 2 bottles to a consumer directly, because that's a whole different type of fulfillment operational side. So we always are mainly 99% in every sell that we do, we work with brokers or like logistics services where we sell to in bulk, and then they do the whole direct to consumer fulfillment, because it's a completely different business model.
All right. What about you, Veronica? Can you explain us a little bit about the 3D humans?
Yeah, absolutely. So we created DDMO with a whole mission of building digital humans that would be the next interface on how people will interact in the digital world, kind of like an extension or a different dimension and layer of who you are, so you can have your digital identity in the virtual world. The way we do it is we take a picture of yourself, and then that is processed on the cloud, and then automatically you get a digital version of you that you could be using. We are definitely a B2B business, so that means we have an API and an SDK and plugins for the different game engines. So companies that have their own brands and wants to build their own experiences can integrate our technology into their own virtual experiences. So we are mostly B2B. We do have an app just for people to test it out and see how it looks. But I think we're still in the very early years of the power of what digital humans can actually bring to the world in every sense. So we're focusing mostly on the entertainment and on the and on fashion as our primary two verticals. So people can, for example, create virtual try-on experiences when they want to buy new type of clothes or outfits. We are photorealistic, so we're not, even though we could work on the domain of stylized and cartoonish, but we make a conscious decision that we didn't want to get into that space. So the technology we're building is extremely difficult. And as I said, still in the very first and early steps towards bringing that photorealism and that likeness and who we are. The reason we decided on photorealism, it's because I personally think that you actually become more responsible when you see yourself doing things. So it's actually the true you that it's on the virtual world. So yeah, that's why we want to really help bring authenticity and trustworthy and connections. So it's a really difficult topic to solve. Besides the technical complexity of creating the digital humans. So yeah, so here we are providing to different businesses the possibility of creating the digital humans through our API.
Okay. Just curious about one thing. You were saying it's a very early stage of the 3D world. Is it that because of the speed of the processors, the speed of the internet? Is it the market adoption? What is stopping the service from...
That's a good question. That's a really good question. So it's a combination. So with the pandemic, actually people now know what a digital human is. Before I needed to explain it. So now we're at that sweet spot where people understand what digital human is. The big companies are also investing and betting a lot in using digital humans into their new experiences. So that's really good. And then technology, in terms of processing, it's already capable of processing digital humans. So but we're not there yet, because to have full immersive experiences, especially for fashion, to simulate a whole outfit in real time on a mobile device with extremely photorealistic quality, we're not there at that point. So we have to use this moment to continue preparing the technology for when more advanced processing and affordable, because it's all about scale, right? We can probably do real-time simulations, but that doesn't mean its cost is low enough so companies can actually adopt it. So we're almost there, I would say. And then the complexity in terms of technology, which we have already overcome at DDMO, is how can you encapsulate the full creation of digital characters. So usually you have companies that will work on creating the geometry, the 3D model, companies that will create a control structure, others will work on the rendering, others will work on the animation. So what we have been, researching and developing, and now we have a full automated platform for the past, 14 years, it's on putting everything together, like all the pieces of the puzzle of creating a digital character, and then integrating different services like real-time translation or real-time speech, motion capture. So that I'm super happy and proud for the team. That's a brief without getting very technical on the current state of the market and the technology, I would say.
Well, that's interesting. I would go for more questions, but maybe we'll get very, very freaky into this. Like, sometimes I hear about 3D, like it doesn't have to be too realistic because it's never realistic enough, and then the eye doesn't really trust it. So better to make it a little bit less realistic, that the person feels more like attached to it. There's so much, but
that's another very good question.
Maybe for Joyce and Raisa, something I'm very curious. It's you throw your parties, you have your friends, they like your drinks, you think there is a business idea there, but from there to have your first bottle with your etiquette there, your label, in a bottle, your drink is there. I mean, it sounds truly complicated. How do you get it? What was the process to get the first bottle? And then if you could also tell me a little bit of the key milestones, like when you look back now, you would say maybe like these 2, 3, 4 milestones that happened, that if one of them did not happen, you probably would not be sitting here right now. Which ones would you pick?
So maybe on like the first bottle and how we made our first product, I think because we lived in London and we were students, we needed to produce and get money or earn money as soon as possible because life in London is very expensive. So we launched with a product that we knew wasn't perfect. And I think that was actually one of the best things that we ever did. We didn't wait for 2 years trying to perfectionize a product that we thought was perfect. And then maybe your buyers don't even think that it's perfect. So we launched with a product that we knew the labels were really not nice. Our liquid was nice, but we were very open for feedback. And also, so how we did it is we initially just got 6,000 bottles. That was the minimum order quantity back then. And
which we produced ourselves.
Which we produced ourselves. We were like working in a factory for like a week, filling it ourselves in like a guy who, he basically had these machineries. We found him on LinkedIn and we rented his machines to then fill it ourselves. So we did that for about 10 days, had our product ready. We had a friend of ours that designed the labels, very, very ugly. And then went to the market and just literally went from bar to bar, very much focused on like one niche segment in London. So we would try and visit 20 bars and restaurants every day, but really in like one quite tiny area in London so that we would stay focused. And then along the way, we would get like, after the first week, we had one customer that said like, I would love to stock Double Dutch, but ideally, I think the product is a little bit too sweet. And I think after 3 months or something, we got like really good feedback and quite consistent feedback. People thought that our products were a little bit too sweet. They didn't really like labels, but wanted to see like more of a story in the labels. And I think the nice thing with that is that our first initial customers really got involved in the whole growing process or in making a product, like from a kind of MVP product to a real product. And those are still like really loyal customers, really loyal bartenders that really got behind the product and the story because they were really involved from the beginning. So I think it was very much a hustle here and there. We then needed to change our labels. Obviously didn't really have money for getting a design agency on board. So we then started like approaching all the designers from the big agencies on LinkedIn, asking if they weren't interested in doing like a label project outside the agency on like a more freelance basis. And then in the end, we basically we got this designer from one of the bigger design agencies in London. He said like, I have a non-compete in my contract, but I'll try and see if I can't get like some kind of a freelance project within our agency. And in the end, we paid £1,500 for a label redesign, while that same agency quoted us initially £90,000. So I think those kind of things really, you need to think outside of the box and not spend a lot of money. Try to find people that want to help you, that there's ways to not spend a lot of money. You don't need to go with the big agencies to get your company up and running. And I do think it's really important that for us, I think it was a good thing that we started with a product that wasn't perfectionized, because along the way, we created products that our customers really wanted rather than only what we thought was a good product.
I think in terms of milestones, the one big milestone that I think really, really helped us is that when we just started, I think 4 months after our launch, we won an award from Richard Branson for the Foodpreneur Award, which was most innovative food and beverage product. And with that, he flew us over to the US to pitch for Target, the supermarket chain. And I think that gave us lots of national press in all the newspapers, in all the trade magazines, and kind of gave us credibility in the industry. People thought because of that we were much bigger than we effectively were. We were tiny. But people just kind of, because of that press, it kind of put us on the map, and bars and restaurants were willing to stock us because they saw that we had national press coverage. And that kind of created a buzz around it. And also the Richard Branson and Virgin team helped us. They flew us over to the US, which was a kind of prize money, to pitch for the supermarket chain there. And they helped us how to pitch for supermarkets, how to pitch for big buyers. And that really helped us kind of going forward as well. So I think that was definitely the one big milestone that I think just kind of accelerated us in the beginning to give us credibility. I think other milestones.
I think the second milestone was probably getting your first grocery retailer. So for us, that was Waitrose in the UK, and then getting the bigger groups in the UK, like HoReCa accounts, just signing up with a Dorchester and Marriott, those kind of things to really prove, like getting like a proof of concept that really helped the students start exporting.
I think especially in the beverage and kind of FMCG space, no one really wants to be the first customer to be stocking something new. So it's so important to kind of get that credibility and get bigger names behind, as stock is behind you in the early days, because everyone kind of looks at everyone else a little bit in FMCG. So that's, I think, really important.
Yeah, and then I think a third milestone definitely was in our third investment round, beginning 2020, raising investment and getting Heineken as a minority shareholder in the business, because that really kind of accelerated, on the one hand side, our international expansion and our distribution points. And also, I think that just on an operational point of view, that really put the company to a new level, and on distribution and internationally. And for example, in the US, having Heineken as a name behind the brand really is a major step forward. So I think definitely those three.
Wow. So I understand you love the product, creating the product, being able to adjust it. It was too sweet. Make it more to their taste, get some label, don't spend too much money on it, but have the courage to contact big labels, big companies. Help me out here. I'm a small company, but I approached the biggest marketing company and one of the biggest ones in London. Then creating a fan community and having access to this factory. Actually, I would like to know, how did you get your feet into this factory to produce the first bottle? And then having these amazing partners, Heineken and Richard Branson, like, that's pretty amazing. One thing I'm very curious, what did you learn about Richard Branson? I mean, I would love to have him here as well. We don't, so what... You've been interacting with him. What is your biggest learning lesson that you had from him that helped you out later?
I think he's kind of just isn't afraid of trying anything. I think all the industries that he's in, he just kind of does it all. And if it works, then happy days. If it doesn't work, like, for example, he started a cola, I think 20 years ago or something, that didn't really work for them. But then they literally try to do everything. And I think I feel that there's kind of a trial and error mentality with them as well, and they try to innovate constantly. And if it doesn't work, then fine, just try and go to the next thing, which we try to do a lot within Double Dash as well. So I think that's been very inspiring.
And I think also Richard Branson is very much about doing business the right way, which I do think is amazing. And I think the way how they treat their personnel, to how they look at sustainability, about the future opportunities for, I think those kind of things are super inspiring and amazing to see. And hopefully we are at some point able to build that kind of company that is very much not only thinking about profits, but also thinking about the whole environment and stakeholders around it, which I think is amazing.
All right, Veronica, What about you? What do you think are the main milestones that help your company be where it is now?
So just for context, I've been working on facial animation and 3D characters since my PhD, which I started by Estación de Francia. So it brings me memories seeing you there. The main milestones have been moving first, making the decision of, okay, we're moving from a research lab to actually creating a company. I was contacted actually by an investor to see if I wanted to create a company. I never thought I was going to be creating a company, really. So that was the first mind shift that I had to decide, is this actually worth doing? Am I going to be able to take the research that I've done at the university and put it in the hands of consumers, right? Is this a problem worth solving? And the answer was immediately yes, mainly because I knew that I could change the life of people once they would have these digital characters on their hands. And not because of the gaming and the fashion, but mostly because this technology can be used for kids that suffer from autism, and they could use digital characters to learn how to communicate. It could help people that doesn't have virtual presence and they suffer from hearing and speaking disorders, so they can have a digital character that can transmit and communicate on the digital space in a good way. So I guess the first milestone was actually internal. It was actually making that decision of moving from academia to building a company with everything that it takes, without really knowing what actually meant creating a company. So I first, as I'm a researcher, I first wanted to have tech validation. So I contacted Amazon and I said, look, we have these digital characters. I want to know what you think about it. And after a few phone calls, I was invited to San Francisco, and I met the general manager of Lumberyard at Amazon, who said that the technology and what we had was really the best thing they saw at the GDC, at the Game Developers Conference, and if we wanted to do a plugin for Lumberyard. So it is an important milestone because I could have chosen, there are three big engines, or two really, in the market, Unity and Unreal, and I could have chosen any of the others, but the reason I contacted Amazon was mainly because they have just launched a new game engine, right? So it was a conscious decision, seeing, okay, what can be new and innovative that the other game engines didn't have. So I got tech validation. Then the next one is does this have a potential business opportunity? So my investor, who wasn't an investor still, we said, okay, let's just test it out. And we applied to Techstars in London. And so we got accepted into Techstars in London. And I kind of like had to trust, if people at Techstars, with all their background knowledge and everything, was something in there, then I was like, okay, there gotta be something worth doing that could be a business out of it. So that was the next milestone. And then it was, okay, how do we get our first client that actually would pay for this technology? And we got Sony as our very first big client in terms of helping us pay for the evolution of the technology and becoming our first paid client. So those were kind of like the three big milestones in terms of building the business. But a business without a team, it's nothing really. So I was a solo founder. I didn't have the fortune of having a co-founder. So it was really tough. So bringing on board who today is our head of HR, and bringing on board our CFO and the CTO, that really made a complete difference because slowly I was building the team. So I guess the next big milestone, I would say, it was probably last year, where we now are 27 people on and off. And we work as a very solid team with a very strong culture and values. And that's probably the things I'm most proud of, besides the technical advances. So yeah, that would be, I would say, the key milestones that make DDMO who it is today.
Also, like to know, like in the case of Race and Joyce, I understand they were students, they needed to have some cash while they were studying in London, they had a dream, they're very young. In your case, you already had 1 or 2 PhD. You are in a field of tech. You could have had like pretty much any job, super well paid, and you decide to go on your own and create a startup. Why do you do that? The opportunity cost was huge.
That, I was like, that sounds insane and crazy, right? Why would someone do that when you have your own research lab, very comfortable life, you research what you do, you don't gotta worry about much, many things. That sounds crazy. So yeah, I think it goes back to the genesis of DDMO, right? And what research really means. I raised over 3 million euros on research funds for Portugal, for the Portugal University, which is a lot to bring to our research lab. I created my own research lab, and I was very into computer graphics, technology for the game and the entertainment industry. I did, for instance, my technology was used, my PhD was used for The Simpsons at Universal Studios, right? So that's the kind of technology I like to do. I was a speaker at SIGGRAPH, top things, very geeky, until we created this application for kids with autism. So where we would teach kids how to draw and mimic facial expressions through digital characters. And I always tell this story because it's the anchor of what keeps me going. And in one of the many sessions, I had this little kid that came to our lab, and he would draw and learn how to smile. And he started laughing. And that's still, it's engraved in me every day, because what was actually more remarkable about that day was actually his dad's reaction. His dad in 2011 asked if he could actually take the tablet. I'm saying 2011 because tablet has just come out to the market in 2010. And he was going to use the tablet to communicate with his son. So suddenly, a technology that was just technology for making better digital characters went in a different dimension. And I could not keep on doing research the way I was doing. It just really changed my life forever. And the project lasted for 3 years, and hundreds of people were using the app and the online application. And then the project finished. And it finished, and it finished. It means technology advanced, and we couldn't have the funds to upgrade the technology. So it got obsolete, and it stayed in a drawer. And that's the saddest thing it could happen to someone, that you've created something, a ton of people used it, and then it just did not progress because it was a research project. So when someone contacted me years later, said, do you want to create a company based on the technology that you had created? I felt I was responsible for actually at least looking at it. And then when I started seeing how people reacted to it, say, wow, this is powerful, then we just created DDMO, and here we are.
Yeah.
But it was a no-brainer decision, I would say, when I validated what I described before.
Right. Well, I think it's amazing, and I think, in my opinion, there is a lot of need for trespassing all this knowledge created in the university into the business world. Maybe some countries like the UK or the US are mastering that better, but most of countries, most of the research stays, unfortunately, only in the universities and doesn't go into the business world while so much money is invested there. I have a couple of quick questions. We don't have much time. One of them, you mentioned you work for Sony, with Sony, Heineken. I have the feeling there should be a lot more corporate venturing. Do you think it's like a really important thing that the companies start including more startups, and that will help much more innovation? Maybe just very quick answer, Raisa and Joyce.
Yeah, I think the big companies are the companies that are able to help smaller businesses, and I think you need them as customers or as businesses behind your product to really go to the next stage, because I think a startup only working with other startups is a small market. I think you need a bigger the bigger companies to really get a bigger route to market, a bigger distribution, or a bigger appeal to a wider audience. So for sure, 100%.
Okay. And then really quick, I would like to talk about future challenges, but we don't have much time. So tell me like 3 big opportunities that you see in your sector for the future, trends, opportunities, however you like to answer it.
I think for us, biggest opportunity is, I think the whole low ABV and no alcohol movement, and I think consumers in general going for more healthy quality products over quantity. I think personalization is becoming bigger and bigger in retail. I think people want to have personalized, customized products, whether it's for markets, whether it's for a specific company or for a specific customer. And I think thirdly, the world that's just become so small. I think COVID again kind of accelerated that. Everything has gone virtual. Everyone now knows that it's possible to kind of, that the world just keeps on going whilst everyone does Zooms and we are doing virtual conferences like this. I think that really made our audience so much easier to reach, and our customers, we can launch in China in a retail chain everything over Zoom. We don't even need to travel there. I think, of course, still businesses are being built on network and face-to-face connections, but the world has become a lot smaller, and I think that's such an opportunity.
Okay, and what about you, Veronica? Just really quick as well, some trends. They can be social, they can be technological, the way you like to answer.
Yeah, I think for me and in the space I work, of course, it's about building your identities and personalizations on the virtual world, and how we can facilitate the creation of new experiences that will encourage connection and building this empathy online. So again, pandemic just accelerated something that before people didn't know. So how can we create 24/7 availability and of personalize our identity in the virtual world, with the main goal of creating connections and facilitate buying online, for example, just getting your outfits online without having to go to a store, really. So that would be a snippet on it.
I could not agree more on that. Like within my company, with Robin Brick, that's what we're doing. We're connecting the online consumers with the people in the store. We believe that having a human interaction, it's the future, not this unilateral conversation just from the website, read my stuff, and hopefully you find the product and have the confidence to buy, but actually talk to an expert, being listened, what are my needs, and then have this dialogue, which will give you the confidence to buy. Well, I can only say thank you. It was extremely interesting to talk to you. I hope to see you soon here or privately, and
thank you very much. We will love to stay with you so much longer, but we are running out of time. Muchas gracias a ti también, Hernán, por tratar de moderar esta ponencia. Ha sido, desde luego, muy interesante. Solo simplemente para dar algunos datos, hacer una especie de resumen, la importancia de la pasión para que el trabajo no solo sea eso, no solo sea trabajo, sino que también sea un hobby, también la importancia de una actitud positiva para seguir adelante. Destacar cómo las empresas también con el coronavirus pues, han tratado de transformarse y han pasado muchas del B2B al B2C. De esto vamos a hablar precisamente en los próximos días en algunas ponencias. El futuro del comercio, experiencias 3D, esto es lo que nos espera. Lo comentaba Verónica antes, ir a un portal de internet que nos mida qué prenda nos queda bien y qué prenda no nos queda tan bien. En cualquier caso, vamos a despedir ya esta ponencia, no sin antes dar las gracias a todos nuestros sponsors globales, al Ministerio de Transportes, Movilidad y Agenda Urbana, al Ayuntamiento de Barcelona, a Servihabitat, a Akbar, y les dejamos ahora con una charla inspiracional. Nosotros no nos vamos de aquí, volvemos en una hora con más contenido, pero quédense en esa charla inspiracional porque es de la mano de Patricia Ramírez y nos va a contar las técnicas que son ideales para afrontar momentos de cierta ansiedad, de cierta adversidad. Así que disfruten y les esperamos aquí. Gracias.